Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be doing a requested video of how to draft a corset with sleeve and a square basque waistline. If it's your first time viewing my channel, please hit on the subscribe button and let's start. So this is my pattern paper I'm working with, and I've gone ahead to mark all my basic measurements, which is my shoulder to bust, my shoulder to under bust, my shoulder to waist and my back. And I went ahead to just mark my standard neckline of 3 by 3 inches. After doing that, I went ahead to place my tape and I marked my shoulder divided by 2. At that point, I came down by 1 inch and I marked my shoulder slope. So after marking my shoulder slant, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure my chest line, and to get your chest line is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to draw a straight line at that point. So after drawing that straight line, I'm going to place my ruler, connect from my shoulder down to my chest line. Next step is to divide my chest line into 2, and from there I'm going to draw my armhole curve. So I'm going to divide it by 2. I have 3.5. From that point I'll go in by half, and at that half point I'm going to place and draw my armhole curve. But before I do that, I'm just going to measure my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to mark. So after that, I'm going to place my French curve touching my bust circumference, the ½ inch I came in with, and at the tip of my shoulder upwards. So after connecting that, the next thing I'm going to mark is my bust span, which is your nipple to nipple divided by 2. I'm going to mark it at the bust, at the under bust, and I'm going to go ahead to also mark it at my waistline. After marking it at my waistline, I'm going to go ahead to extend it to my basque length. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and use a straight ruler and I will draw a straight line connecting the mark. After drawing those lines, I'm going to measure my shoulder and I'm going to divide what I have by 2. I'll go ahead and extend this down to my shoulder slope or shoulder slant. So what I'm going to do is to take my dart intake at both sides at my waistline, and I'm going to mark 1 inch at both sides. I'll do the same thing at my basque length. After doing that, I'll go up to my under bust, and I'll go ahead to mark. So after marking this, I'll just go ahead to draw a straight line. So before I do that, I'll go ahead to adjust my dart intake at the lower part because I made a mistake, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect, drawing a straight line at both sides of my pattern. Next, I'm going to place my French curve touching my under bust and my bust line, and I'll go ahead to connect and draw. So right now, if you don't have a French curve, you can go ahead to use a freehand sketch. So I'll draw this for the other part of the cup also. So the next thing I'll do is to go down by ½ inch, and from that ½ inch I went down from, I'm going to come in by ½ inch. So I'll go ahead to outline it with my marker to make that point visible. So after doing that, what I'm going to do is to take my French curve and I'm going to connect from that ½ inch I came into my under bust. So my cup at that point is ready, and this is what I have. So moving over to the other side. Next, I'm going to place my tape from my chest line and I will measure 1.5. So it is optional, you can go up by 2 inches, and from there I'm going to mark 1 inch for my dart intake at both sides. After drawing out that, I'm going to take my French curve and place it this way. You can also use a straight rule to do this, and I'll connect it down to my bust point. And I'm going to place my French curve and I'm going to draw my neckline. So after drawing that part, I'll also place my French curve this way, and I'm going to connect from that part down to my bust line also. So after drawing it, this part is ready, and the next thing is to draw the side cup. So before I do that, I'm going to measure my bust divided by 4. From that point, I'll measure what I have from my chest line to my armhole, the space I have there, and I'm going to divide it into 2 and I'll mark. So after marking that, that's where my cup is, and I'm going to extend this down to my armhole and draw my cup. If you notice in this particular tutorial, we are extending this part of the cup to the armhole is to create an armhole area where you can attach sleeve to the dress or sleeve to the corset, just like an off-shoulder corset. So from there, I'm just going to extend it down to my under bust to create the cup for the other side. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and I will outline my cup, and I'll also go ahead to label the cup area of my corset. So you can also go ahead to label the body to avoid getting confused. So I forgot doing that actually. So the next thing is to insert my body circumference. At my bust, I'm going to insert my bust circumference, measure the dart intake I have at the upper part, and I'm going to include it and mark my sewing allowance. So whatever I have at the bust, I'm going to extend it down to the chest line later. So at the under bust, I'm going to insert my under bust circumference and go ahead to mark the dart intake. After that, I'm going to add my sewing allowance. Going down to my waistline, I'm going to mark my waist circumference, mark the dart intake, and I'm going to mark my sewing allowance. So whatever I have at my waist, I'm going to extend it down to my basque, because this is a top, but if I'm making use of an inbuilt corset, I'll be inserting my hip circumference at that point, and we are also going to create a basque, so it's not necessary to mark your hip measurement. Then I'm going to connect from my chest line down to my bust, to my under bust, down to my waist, and down to my basque length. So just like I said, I went ahead to label this part as center and this side as side. So I'm just going to cut out this before I create the basque effect at the lower part. So after cutting out, this is what I have. So I'm just going to go ahead to tape it, but this is optional. If you don't want to tape yours, you can just hold it down and then cut out the basque. So what I'm going to do is to measure around 4 inches. So this is also optional depending on how big the person is. So from this point, I'm just going to extend it to my waistline. And what I'm going to do, I'll measure about 1.5 inches or the sewing allowance, so that by the time I'm joining it to the back pattern, is going to be the same length at the sides. So, and if you notice, the basque is a block basque, it's not like the regular basque that we always draft. So this is what I have after drawing out the basque area. And what I will do is to cut out the excess. So after cutting it out, it's left for you to separate it or just to leave it together this way. So from the picture, I guess it is together. All you have to do is to create boning channel on it. So this is the front part of this corset. So heading to the back, this is what I cut out for the back, and I went ahead to mark zipper allowance for the back. So this corset is making use of a zipper. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to take my pattern and I'm going to place this way. So this is the easiest way to draft the back part of the pattern, since it's an off-shoulder corset. So I'm just going to fold in my basque area for my waist, and I'm going to make sure whatever I'm placing is starting from my zipper allowance. So what I'll do next is to hold this down. So after holding it down with the pin, this is what I have. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that side of the cup that has the armhole part, and I'm going to go ahead to connect it this way. So what I'm trying to do is to create the armhole for the back part of the corset. I'm going to take that part and I will outline it. So after drawing it out, what I'm just going to do is to remove it. I'll first of all use my marker to mark it out before I'm going to remove it. So this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to determine how low or high your neckline is going to be. So what you're going to do is just to go ahead and I'll just take my ruler and then I'll extend it down to that point I have in front. So it's optional. You can go ahead to make yours straight. So after drawing out, what I'm just going to do is to go ahead to draw out this particular, or use my scissors to cut out this particular shape that I've created, and I'm going to open it up for you to see. So after I'm done, I'm just going to remove this front pattern from the back pattern, and this is what I have for the back. So I'll go ahead to label this as my back. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get rid of the bulginess at the back. At the zipper allowance, I'm going to go ahead and mark 1/2 inch, and I'm going to place my ruler, and I'll go ahead to mark it out, mark a straight line from the upper part and down to the down part. After doing that, what I'm just going to do is to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out this part. So with that, my pattern is ready, my back pattern is ready. So this is it right now. I'm done drafting the back and the front. This is what I have. So with this, we call this a wrap on this particular tutorial. If you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave your comment at the comment section, and see you in our next video. Thanks.